Hi, my name is Angelyn Nicholson, and I am the creator and founder of Color of Kismet, which is a whole bunch of different metaphysical things. I'm also a trauma therapist. And so I come to you with information today about trauma that I have posted on my Patreon page. If you're interested in learning more about who I am, to see if you're interested in all of this, you can go to colorofkismet.com or find me on Instagram or Facebook. If you're interested in learning more about metaphysical things, but just a little bit at a time, check out the Patreon page. Enjoy the video. Hello, and welcome to this question and answer time for January of 2023. Welcome to the new year. Happy New Year. Today's question is a big question, and so I'm only going to have one today. But it is a question that is asked a lot to me because I am a trauma therapist and because I view everything from the lens of trauma and from healing, whether metaphysical or using scientific methods. I alter or I use all the things together and overlay. And so the way that my brain works is to overlay all of what I know from all of the categories, if that makes sense, and then try to merge it together to help people understand. So the question is, Angelyn, can a person truly ever heal from trauma? And like I said, this is a really big question. The short answer is yes. The longer answer requires a little bit of discussion because it happens incrementally over time in your life. So it is rarely something that happens in one session with someone or after reading one book. You're going to be able to take lessons that you are capable of learning in each of those things, right? So you read the book, you get things from it that click, that make you understand, pardon me, that help you understand trauma, your trauma, and the way that it worked in your life. And you have these awarenesses, and then you go out into the world with those new awarenesses, and it solidifies that understanding underneath you until you are ready. In the way that I look at it is you're solidly standing on that piece now. Then you can go and have a session with, a therapist or a metaphysical healer or a chiropractor. And having been standing there and being ready for the next thing, you'll have the next wave. Every single time that you have an awareness, it's representative of paths converging in your brain. And so every single one of those awarenesses is of vital importance. There are none that are not important. And to that end, it doesn't necessarily matter where you get each one of those bits. If you're drawn to your acupuncturist, and while you're laying there on the table with the needles in you, you have this big awareness around your trauma or around why you are the way you are, or you do the things you do, then you sit with that. You explore it. You ask yourself questions based on that new understanding. You think about it. You apply it to other areas in your life. You talk about it with people. And when you do that, it takes this, we're here. And then we have the awareness and we sort of pop up a little bit. And as we're figuring it all out, it becomes solid until we're standing. And then we have another awareness and we make a jump up. And then we go through the process of thinking about it, understanding it, questioning it, seeing it play out in our lives in different ways. We talk to people about it. And then everything begins to solidify again, you see. few people, although it is possible and some people do it, but it's just a few, are able to have a complete healing at one time. It's not impossible. When something happens to us that creates a wound in our energy systems and in our spiritual body, okay? There's a wound, whether it's something somebody said, something they did, an entire, like a time frame. Let's say you were in an abusive relationship for this chunk of time. Just imagine the wound growing and it being a very big wound, right? That shows up in our brains and in our neuropathways in a lot of different ways. But mostly what it does is it creates these, they look like plates of spaghetti to me. These big plates of spaghetti without the plate, just this like thing of noodles that's all jumbled up and they're all over us. But when I'm working with someone and I can see their big jumble of noodles, and I explain to them that what we're trying to do is unravel a little bit at a time the noodle plate, And so if we spend a session and we find a noodle, sometimes when you pull and pull and pull, it'll keep coming and you just keep going. And to me, that's one of those neuro pathways that may not be, it's not connected to a million others. It's just easy to pull out. That's easy to neutralize. And then we'll find some that when you pull it, it's connected to another truly thousands and thousands of other pieces of spaghetti. And those we have to be more gentle with because they're deeper and they're bigger. But we work on those. Understand every time you have the awareness and you make the little jump up, you're effectively like sort of chopping off the piece like, okay, that one, we got that one. Or you're pulling a piece out. You're creating where that one piece that might be stuck to thousands and thousands, you're creating a piece that is instead only connected to a few hundred. It shows up in different ways. This is all metaphor. The plate of spaghetti I do see energetically. And that plate of spaghetti is not there when we're done, but the whole process, the way that I see it in my clairvoyant eye, it's not through the pieces of spaghetti. It's different, but this is just for metaphor. So understand that every awareness, every time that you talk with somebody about your experience, or you go in with intention to a session to work on a particular issue, every time that you notice that another behavior that you do or another thing that you do connects back to this larger issue, every time you have awareness like that, you're incrementally making it smaller and smaller. The benefit of working with one person or a few people, like a group of people, is they get to know what your issues are and they get to understand how they're working in your body, and they can help guide you through healing. And so I would suggest that you have a group, 4 or 5 people that you see regularly. And by regularly, that means like maybe you see a therapist twice a month. Maybe you see your chiropractor once every other month. Maybe you see your massage therapist once a month. It doesn't have to be like constantly, but just like the same team of people that you're working with. The benefit is that they're able to sort of track everything and help move everything along. And, it's funny, but there are certain healers or other people out there that when I work with a client that they're working with, what ends up happening is just really, really magical. So, if you're a client and you're interested in, going double duty for your work, there are a few people that I know, I don't know why, but our work when we work together is just really, really incredible. So as you're pulling this stuff out, as you're looking at stuff and growing awareness and cleaning that plate of spaghetti, what you're doing in your brain is you're neutralizing these neuropathways. You're saying, this is the neuropathway that we've been down in this exact same way 1 trillion times. But now I understand this new thing, and it was a really big deal. And when I understood it, it felt like this. And that is your new neuropathway. And so every time that you talk about it, every time that you apply it to your life, every time you bring yourself back, what you're doing is you're strengthening that new neuropathway and neutralizing places on the old one until finally you're able to make the jump. And then you do. And you'll notice throughout your life that sometimes you'll go back to that old one and you'll, why am I here? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I experiencing life this way today? And it's just because you got off track. You went back to the easy one instead of the new one. The new one is not as easy to stay on because the new one isn't as deep and big and wide yet, but it will be. The longer that you stay on it and keep doing the new way, understanding, applying the new idea to the way that you live your life, you're strengthening that neuropathway. And so, again, the short answer is that yes, you can. The longer answer is that because trauma is complicated, both physically in our bodies and in our spiritual body, it takes some time. It's gradual. There's no possible way I could lead you from beginning to end in, a minute or even an hour. Are there miraculous healings? Yes, there are. Absolutely. Most of us don't experience that in our lifetime, although, I want to open the door to that. I'm open to that. I'm open to seeing it happen all the time. I'm open to experiencing it in my own life. Until we get to the place where we're all able to experience things that way, know that it could take a little bit of time. And most of the time is really about your brain catching up and understanding and processing. And so when you hear me talk, and I talk a lot about setting down your phone, spending time in meditation, limiting your distractions, all of that is about, when you do those things, you're creating space and time for you to process stuff so that the work you're doing out in the world is actually being reflected in your life. The last thing you want to do is spend time and money on all of this stuff to help you and then not allow for integration. And just if you just keep going and you don't allow for integration, how are you going to be able to get to that next step? I think a lot of people don't understand that. No shame if that's what you've been doing. And quite frankly, many of us do it all the time to some degree. And it's just, we have to bring more awareness to it and stop so that we can help ourselves neutralize the things in our lives that are creating polarity within us. Okay. I hope that answers the question. Can a person truly ever heal from trauma?